Hello everybody, I'm Phil Liggett and welcome back to the Belgian Ardennes. This is the start town of Charleroi as we now look to the 73rd edition of La Fleche Wallonne, the Walloon Arrow. And indeed this race now, having established itself over the years, is the hors d'oeuvre before the big classic race from Liège, Bastogne-Liège, which comes up in just 5 days' time. A midweek tester perhaps for the riders who really have bigger ambitions for just a few days ahead. Last year, Kim Kirkham won it. He was the first Luxembourg rider ever to do so. He rides on Team Columbia. He's back in the race this year, but coming back from injury after his crash in the Tour of California. David Rebellin is here as well. He won the race in 2001 and also in 2004. Well, this really is the most beautiful part of Belgium. Complete contrast to the Flanders cobbled roads, and the weather is extremely nice. The Belgian cyclists doing well considering the hills. They've won this race 37 times. Italy are second, 17 wins for them. Then come France and the rest of the nations quite a long way off the leaderboard. Well, as the spring is now well and truly with us here, hardly any air at all, wind rather. These are the presentations, France des Jeux on the stage at the moment. And these are the people who really are the experts. There's Axel Merckx over from Canada, where he now lives, just to come to his favourite area. He's a Walloon as well. And the Fleche, by the way, are taking part here. Not Frank, who had that bad crash in the Amstel Gold Race. There's the winner of the Amstel Gold Race just going through. That was Sergei Ivanov. Oscar Freire here, 3 times world champion. Everybody in good humour, I think, today, simply because the weather is so nice. Alejandro Valverde, perhaps preoccupied by the ongoing investigation with Operation Puerto for him. Kirkham too, thinking of what might be today. Cadel Evans, the best placed Australian last year in second ever on the podium. And Philippe Gilbert, new team for him, is on Cadel's side this time around. So the field all set to roll out under sunny conditions. We're looking back at the start here through courtesy of our guests of Belgian television. And then we'll go up the road and we'll bring you right up to date with the live pictures. This is where the riders head for the finish. They also climb the Mur de Huy twice before they finish on top. And these are the massive crowds who always walk up the hill. There's nowhere to put your cars. And the gradient is 25%. It is a very tough climb indeed. Little flashback, since the start, Christophe Moreau, got away with Fumiaki Beppu. Beppu was in trouble on the climb of the Huy, and in fact Moreau wanted to wait for him, but wasn't getting too far with him at all. He wasn't quite as strong as the top Frenchman. This is the main peloton, and as we go to the live pictures, the gap is coming down. It had been out to well over 15 minutes. So let's go to the action in the 73rd Fleche Wallonne. So as we join the action then, as you can see, there's a very, very large peloton here as they make the big final circuit. 44 kilometres to go. The breakaway of Christophe Moreau and Fumiaki Beppu no longer together. Beppu tried to keep up with Moreau. In the end, he had to say goodbye to him and send him back. And the lone French leader now just under 4 minutes out in front. They've been over 15 minutes, so he's coming back slowly, but he's having a magnificent training day, I must say that, for Christophe Moreau here on the Agritubel team. He's a 13 times rider of the Tour de France, with a terrific ride he did back in 2000 when he finished 4th. And I think after that he really believed he could one day win the Tour de France, but that hasn't been the case. It's the same year, by the way. He had 2 very bad crashes there, broke his collarbone and fractured his skull, so he had a very slow start to the year, but clearly it helped him be very strong in that year's Tour de France. But this has been a very long and lonely day, even when he was in the company of the Japan rider who was once on the team of Lance Armstrong, by the way. The year he started racing for Lance's team, 2005, Lance was planning his retirement later that year. And as we all know now, the big man is back and hopefully will be riding well in the Giro d'Italia. Well, the field behind have had this breakaway more or less under control since we left Charleroi, just 8 kilometres out. We headed off from Charleroi in a north-northeasterly direction above Namur, which you might like to know is the very first town I went to by train back in 1961 with my bicycle. I'd never been to Europe in my life, and of course stepped off the train and looked the wrong way, because the cars in Europe are on the opposite side of the road to the cars in the UK. I had a wonderful ride down to Luxembourg and back up to Namur, and then the very next day I won my first bike race back in England, so obviously the training did me good. That's a little aside for you as we look now at the peloton here. It really is a very large group. They've enjoyed a very nice late spring day down here in the Ardennes. Totally different area to the industrial part of Flemish area speaking Belgium. But I think whether you're French or Flemish speaking, this is an amazing country if you're a cycling enthusiast. The target of the day, always the 3 climbs up the Mer de Huy. This is another tight fit here. We've got 1 or 2 other climbs, but basically the action is on the Mer itself coming out of Huy. It's about 800 metres. This is the small coat where the riders now are using this to try and soften things up, I think. And this could be an attack here by Chris Anker Sorensen of Saxo Bank. Somewhat quiet year for them. They've been off to an up and a down start, particularly so with the injuries to Stuart O'Grady. I hesitate to say again. Poor old Stu is always in the wars. But he's a man of rubber and he bounces back. This is Chris Anker Sorensen here now. This is the sort of reaction we expect. Just 43 kilometres, about 28.5 miles left to ride. And we should see that gap close pretty quickly now. Previous years we've come here, they've been in the rain at this point, but this has been a marvellous early spring classic season since we went over to Paris-Roubaix and the Tour of Flanders and Ghent-Wevelgem. We've now come right down to the Ardennes here, down by Holland and Germany, where the roads are totally different. These climbs are very painful. They're not that long, but they hurt. But Bazayev coming up there, champion of Kazakhstan as well. The early testers now to see who's coming out to play towards the end of the day. You never know. All the big names are riding the race, but you never know if they're riding this event for training or to seriously aim for the victory because of Liège-Bastogne-Liège coming up. Moreau has certainly got his Wednesday's training in, that's for sure. He's going to be out there now. He's been out for about 150 kilometres at the moment, with or without Beppu. Now, having made the big effort, it looks as though it's hurting just a bit right now for Sorensen. Well, that nasty crash we saw, by the way, in the Amstel Gold race, which Matthew Lloyd of Australia collided with or near to Frank Schleck. Both were quite seriously injured. Matthew Lloyd will be out for a little while they sort his body out, and we wish him well there for sure. And also Frank Schleck, he's out of hospital. He's complaining still of headaches from concussion, but he says he's going to try and ride on Sunday's Liège-Bastogne-Liège. There's only Andy Schleck here, his brother, in this race today for Saxo Bank. So that's a big loss at the moment. Champion Luxembourg, sidelined. Number 1, proudly worn by last year's winner for Columbia High Road, Kim Kirken. First time we've mentioned his name since he crashed in February on the roads of the United States in the Tour of California. Can't believe he'll be a competitor today, but he's still in the action, although dangerously near the back here now, as he's got about 150 kilometres in those legs today. Valuable training for the future, I think. Not quite as long. We're only talking about a kilometre or so as previous editions. 195.5. I've never known how they've worked out to the nearest half kilometre, any race distance, but that's what they say it is. And last year I think it was 198, so a little bit shorter. Not that we'll notice. Well, everybody free now to try and break up this field. Good smooth racing roads here, always changing direction. Not a lot of wind today. This is the difference, I think, to the Flanders roads. A, they're beautifully surfaced. There are cobblestones, but even the cobble sections are not the bad cobblestones of the northern part of Flanders, or the western part of Belgium. And these roads twist and turn, duck and dive. Astana, Lance Armstrong, of course, with his broken collarbone. we hope he's now okay, and he's going to compete shortly in the Tour of Gila, although his team are denying it. That's his aim, I think, along with Levi Leipheimer, who's still based in the States. Doesn't seem much in the pipeline for them before they come over then to the Giro d'Italia. We'll see. This is Gorman. Slipstream also enjoying the race today. The American squad now settled in as a real top team on the circuit, well respected. And again, they'll be looking for a top start to the Giro d'Italia. Maybe another pink jersey for the sensation of last year, Christian van der Velde. Finishing 4th in the Tour de France. Never a shortage of riders now to just put the nose out front, see if they can close down on Christophe Moreau. A little bit of a split in the field here now. This is interesting because somebody's opened the door at the front, a sign the legs are beginning to be stretched to the limits, perhaps by one or two of the riders. A lot of work is being done by Lampre, and maybe they've got visions of the little prince, Damiano Cunego, to try and improve on his 3rd place finish of last year. Silence Lotto, well, they've got a two-pronged attack today. Cadel Evans, who got the best Aussie finish ever last year with 2nd place, and he's now got on his side Philippe Gilbert, who lives in this region. I can't believe we will call the race today without mentioning his name, because everybody knows Philippe in this neck of the woods. What a lovely place to go training. Well, the B-Box Bouygues Telecom rider here, not sure who it was, but he's being lassoed and brought back to the fold. They're a tenacious lot today. And our camera's choosing to stay with the peloton. They're expecting the split at any moment, and they've got one just now. And we've knocked just about a minute in 4 kilometres. That's a big catchback of Moreau. Christophe Moreau, 38 years of age now, just. And that'll make Lance Armstrong feel a bit happier anyway. He's only a mere 37 and a half. Here he is, the boy in blue for Agri-Toubel. A couple of wins for him last year. Well, one actually, down on Salon de Provence, beautiful area of France. But he also got a good 2nd place overall in the Route du Sud. But he was rather miffed because he wasn't allowed to try and defend his championship in the Dauphiné Libéré. They wouldn't accept the team entry, so he has an up and a down situation with officialdom and the organisers in France. Moreau. Whistles a blow here as we descend down back onto the main road. The nature of this is we've come right across from Charleroi in a northeasterly direction above Namur down to Huy. We've been over the hill. The crowd has seen the race. Now we're on the big circuits. We've been over the hill twice, in fact. 38 kilometres to go. We're now heading on a huge loop to bring us back round for the big finish. Constant attacking here, and this again is Bazayev, I think, who's gone away for Astana. They've managed to open up a small group here, but the main field are not out of contention. So as long as there are riders willing to keep on doing this, there you can see the field behind. They can just get riders to do this, then they might prize open a gap. But all of these counter moves, of course, are slicing into poor old Christophe Moreau there. He's down to 2 minutes now. Looks to be about 15 or 16 riders down there. I think Tony Martin has got into that. Gasparotto. The orange jersey of Euskaltel-Euskadi is Igor Martinez. Well, I think we've got one or two good names here who might well bring this one to rights. Kolobnev. There's Tony Martin in the centre. Well, they're right up on the revs here now, and the peloton on the right of our picture and just behind the breakaway are not allowing them to go, and yet look at all the teams represented. It shows you sometimes the systems don't appear to work. There's a lot of racing going on down there. And it's the Katusha team who's pushing on the far right. Some good early season success for them, but lacking a little bit just of late. Until last week, that was. And then Sergei Ivanov finally got first place in the Amstel Gold. Côte de Bonville. It's a nice smooth road, narrow climb. No point in rushing now for Moreau. He knows surely the inevitable is about to happen. He needed a stronger man if it was going to work. Fabien Weckman swings through and off. Gasparotto. Well, maybe it's going to happen because that gap is opening ever so slightly. Lamprey, who've worked very hard in the chase back, have got two men in here now, including Gasparotto. And the other one here is Francesco Gavazzi, I think. And Gasparotto's a strong man. And Sedimenti is also here. They're also coming off a successful run, particularly again in the Tour de l'Ancor with Jose Serpa. Cofferty's now stretching at the front here. Anybody will do just now. They're just trying to keep this breakaway's momentum. This is the back end as they turn onto the Côte de Bonville. And as you can see, you've got to queue and take your turn and then hope they're still with you at the top of the climb. You can see here from the roads there's nowhere to leave a car, so you've got to dump it and walk. In the backdrop there is the River Meuse. It courses through the Ardennes. Picnic time on the right of the road, that is, left-hand picture. Just sitting there nicely tugged on the back is Roy de Costa of Case d'Aparn. And if anybody's got any ambitions now, I think I'll be trying to cross that gap. Little bit of a kick here. It's Gasparotto. So he's dangling like a carrot, an Italian carrot, of course, as the others try to get onto him, but nobody is allowing him his head, is he? His teammate sat off. I think it is Gavazzi who's pulled back there. Tony Martin, I think that is, from Team Columbia. A little bit of trouble at the back here. The boys from Garmin Slipstream. This is Tom Peterson. Well, it was Tom Peterson as he passed through our camera. And I think the other one was Dan Martin there. I'm not too sure. But Tom Peterson, a terrific stage winner in the Tour of California this year. We haven't seen much of him since, but I think we will. These are tough races by any standard, and they're really not for the young professionals, except for experience, of course. But all of these guys know this is where you make your reputation. The television coverage is enormous here in Europe, in every country. Stay in front of that camera for as long as possible and you're done for the season. And that's more or less what's happened for Christophe Moreau today, because a lot of people are going to say he's getting good legs again at 38 years of age. It isn't a tremendous achievement, isn't it? Heading up towards his 40th birthday. Saxo Bank. Got two riders up here in this breakaway. Alexander Kolobnev is one, and I wouldn't be surprised, but I think the other one is Chris Anker Sorensen. And Bazayev, the champion for Astana, in that light blue colour, almost turquoise, sitting near the back. And there is not a surprise, is it really? The legs are just about to crack wide open. Last year's winner, Kim Kirken, searching for his form. I think we'll probably be hearing a lot from Kim when we come to around June for those season build-up races to the Tour de France, like the Dauphiné Libre or the Tour de Suisse, where he's ridden well in the past. Watch out for him then. Well, this has been a very hard break to establish. We've only got 34 kilometres to go. There's the full list now. Maxime Montfort is also here for Team High Road. It is Gavazzi, Agnoli for Liquigas. Currently out of our shots there. Oscar Pereiro is 3 wheels down here. Nice to see Nicolas Rochin on the act as well. Bazayev we've seen, he's got a teammate here in Muriev. We've seen Fabien Weckman. And the Cofidis rider is Leonardo Duque. I thought it was. Well, he's the sprinter. If they take him to the line, have a great chance. And he's pretty active too. He's sitting up near the front there. At the moment, about 8 riders down that line in the red jersey. I count about 17 riders there in that breakaway. And there's the peloton, hardly out of sight and out of mind, but in a nice pasture land setting here now. All the big teams, though, have got somebody in that breakaway, so they've now got to decide whether they're going to chase them back. Katusha, I don't think, has anybody. That's a big minus for them, so they may have to do something. Muriev on the front for Astana. Another tight fit for the peloton in these beautiful narrow roads in another village here in the Ardennes. If you ever get the chance to come training or just touring cycling in this area, take it. Wonderful restaurants, coffee shops, small hotels to stay in, and you'll hardly see a car if you go up into the hills and through the forests. Tony Martin and Maxime Montfort, 2 of the young bloods on the Team High Road with great futures, I think. Cyril Gauthier, new professional there. That's why I didn't recognise him. I think it was Gauthier who had a little dig on the climb at Bonville there. It's Kolobnev just passing through, Bazayev. Wolfgang and Sorensen are the 2 Saxo Bank, so it's not Kolobnev. The Scandinavian sectors of the team, which is a Danish team, of course, managed by Bjarne Riis. Well, that hasn't gone anywhere, has it? And they're even in trouble themselves now. The back end has decided it's not going anywhere. They're beginning to fall away from the back. As it looks as though it is under the impetus here of Team Katusha. That's Sergei Klimov who's setting the pace. They've also got the champion of Austria in here, Fanberger. There's Weckman in that white jersey with the bands around it. He's up front. Just on 20 miles left to go, about 40 minutes to ride to the finish. And we've almost forgotten about poor old Moreau, but he's still up there. A minute to the first chase for him, and they've got about 20-odd seconds on the main field. So I can't see that breakaway going anywhere. Nature of the course now flattens out a little bit, and then we've got a very fast charge down towards Huy itself before we shoot up the wall for the finish. Very painful way to end the day. Little zoo on the top, by the way. Not that we've ever gone inside because we've been too busy with what's happening outside. This is Duque. Surprisingly energetic for a sprinter is Leonardo Duque. Despite his name, he is a Frenchman. Big moment came, I suspect, when he won a stage at the Tour of Spain back in 2007 on the 16th stage. number 6 down there is Montfort. Quick-Step have got a rider in that breakaway as well. So Duque dropped away. I think I said a French, but in fact he is Colombian, of course. A little bit more suited to the hills possibly, but one of the few Colombians who does pack quite a punch at the finish. Just tapping out the rhythm down there is Dries Devenants, is the Quick-Step rider. He's been riding very well this year. Got himself in the front of many breakaways. Hasn't yet pulled off the goods, but he's right up there. About professional racing, you can attack many times and find nothing works, and one day it does. "44 seconds. We're about to see Christophe Moreau by the look of it. He's not going to see the final climb. Had he just got to that climb at about 40 seconds, he might have ran away with it, but unfortunately, once they swept up Beppu, they knew he wasn't going to survive. No shortage of firepower here. It's not that the crowds down in Belgium, in this part of Belgium, are less enthusiastic. It's just that nobody lives down this way. But they certainly like their cycling down here. I spent a wonderful period about 1986, probably 88, something like that, training with Stephen Roach in this area. A very nice area, except that Stephen liked to go up hills and I didn't, which was a great shame, really. Right, this will be Gautier again. Seems to like it when the roads go slightly up. There's a flurry of riders. Some liquid gas have suddenly turned up here. Wegman rather annoyed now. The gaps are forming between wheels. There's nobody organised. It's everybody has a dig for himself, gets nowhere, waits for somebody who goes by himself, gets nowhere, and the result is we're all going nowhere. 46 seconds. In fact, Moreau just pulled out a second. This is a real scrap here. No organisation whatsoever, and that's been very often the way the classics have gone this year. Riders seem to be racing to the limits, and those limits aren't good enough to smash everybody else. Meanwhile, the Tête de la Course, the head of the race, ploughing his own private furrow here without any chance to stop at a coffee shop, as he gets into the last 28 kilometres, the town of Andenne. It's been a magnificent performance, I have to say, by Moreau. Even so, I think he's chosen today to attack from the gun, which he did, and I don't think he's ever nurtured the thought of winning this race. He's just actually wanted to get on with it and get some training in. He might be planning to do something in Liège. I think about now he would wish he had somebody with him, I must say. His best ever finish, as far as I can remember, in Fleche Wallonne was back in 2003 when he finished 9th, and that year went on to finish 8th in the Tour de France. Former winner of the prologue time trial in Dunkirk as well. That was something of a surprise that year. That was in 2001, the year after he'd finished 4th, and I think he had real ambitions then of stepping on the podium in Paris, but it wasn't to be. He's time trialling at the town of Andenne, is where the peloton are as well. 45 seconds later, all ready for us. We course to the centre of the town. The red top roofs of the French-speaking area of Belgium. It's so easy to go over towards Luxembourg here, into Germany or into Holland. And these are such clean parts of Europe. That's the cycle path to the right of Moreau, where you must ride in Belgium. If you're not privileged to be on a closed road for a bike race, you You're not allowed onto the road on the bike at all. Remember that, because the police can get a bit ugly if they catch you outside of those dotted lines. But it is a system that works, I must say. You feel very safe riding on these roads. It's around about 16, 17 degrees Celsius at the moment, which is about 64 degrees Fahrenheit. Maybe slightly cooler than that. Well, seeing Morrow from this angle, he doesn't look as though he's tired at all. Côte de Bois is so. Maximum gradient of 20%, or in old terms, 1 in 5. The cameras never really give you the true slope, do they? But usually when you see the legs flex, that gives you a good clue. And this is the peloton about to start the same climb now. And it's Katusha who are doing all of the work. Well, they keep missing the moves, so maybe this time they won't. But the peloton has totally regrouped after that initial flurry. There was no reason why that breakaway shouldn't have succeeded. Seemed to have enough people in it from different teams, but it wasn't to be. They're now starting the same climb. It's 1.3 kilometers long. Just under 1 mile in length. Long enough to split the field, perhaps. We'll see as the pressure stays on. These boys keeping the gears turning as they whip up the pace with the domestiques. Like Sergei Ivanov, who was trying to get in on the act as well. Fabian Vekman, never far from the front. It is Ivanov also trying to come through. His tail is well up now after his great result in the Amstel Gold Race. Five times the Russian road race champion and currently the champion again. 20 seconds, so we should see Christophe just over the top of this hill as the counter-attacks are moving. Gendarme there pushing everybody over. And now it looks like Quick-Step are trying to cause a split. And Ivanov has read this move. Here he is tucked into third wheel. That is Kolobnev now has moved into fourth wheel. Reaction, I think it's coming from Case Depon. We haven't seen anything of Alejandro Valverde at the moment. That could be Philippe Gilbert, who's just punching his way across the gap as well. There's a lot of doors opening, and here is the lonely figure of Christophe Morrow. And now this time from the front he does look a little bit tired, and I don't think we're going to see much more of him today. There is Ivanov in second wheel, and it is I'm not sure, but it could be Jurgen van den Broek of Belgium, the silenced Lotto rider who's crossed the gap. 24 kilometers to go. So for only 32 kilometers of the 196 today has Christophe Morrow seen the peloton. And there's no resistance from him there. I've got him down for around about 166 kilometers in front, either with Beppu or by himself. Terrific breakaway at just over 100 miles in a field of this quality. At one stage he led by 15.25 minutes. They've wiped it out, as they seem to do all too often, with just 24 kilometers to go. The trees now are in full leaf here. The nesting birds won't be too happy with the flash by of colour, I'm sure. We make our way now towards the finish and the last climb. The last kilometre is where it all happens, unless somebody can slip away. But really, you've got to not only get away, but you're going to need a lead of a good half minute to 40 seconds before you start the climb, because a good climber sprinter will wipe you out on that climb to the finish today. And the quick step boy, I think it's Dries Devedens again, wants a little bit of help from Liquigas. I think they're a bit confused now. They don't quite know what to do because they've caught Moreau. There's nobody in front. This is the race. So Alexander Kolobnev decides to bring him up. Looks like Iglinski of Astana's hooked onto his back wheel. All these riders who have been lost in the red jersey of the Soviet Union a few years ago now ride for their own countries, free of the Union itself. Countries, of course, none of us knew existed when they all used to come here as the Soviet Union and never rode in professional races. Dmitry Konishev was the first Russian cyclist to wear the polka dot jersey in the Tour de France as a leader in the King of the Mountains, long time ago. He was also the first Russian to win a pro medal, which he did up against Greg LeMond and Sean Kelly. So Iglinski, who saw his jersey pass over to Basayev as national champion last year. He was the 07 road race champion. He's just jumped into the slipstream of Kolobnev on the Côte de Bruxelles. And just look at the speed of some of these riders who try to rip across the gap. Number 12 there is Christoph Brandt of Silence Lotto. It's been an incredibly difficult race to try and get something going here. There's been a lot of riders willing to attack and work, but nobody doing anything. There's the Italian flag. Slightly out of context on this little rise here. Little group of three trying to bridge the gap. Make that 7, 8, and it looks like the peloton. As they come over the top of the little coat, there's been a regrouping at the top here. Iglinski looks over his shoulder at Kolobnev. We've got all these guys for company. We were happy with just the two of us. 5 from the valley village there of Anden. Euskaltel Euskadi, a Spanish Basque team that surprisingly ride well in the spring classics in this area. These little short sharp hills seem to suit their riders. Last Spanish winner, by the way, of this race was indeed Alejandro Valverde. In 2006, when he did the double, he also won Liège-Bastogne-Liège. In the old days, this was actually it was called the Ardennais weekend because it was Fleche on the Saturday and Liège on the Sunday. Now that made for a tough day out. That was, let me see, some 455 kilometres of racing in 2 days. That would make you late for work on Monday morning, I'm sure. Trying once again to just break this field up. I think this is, could be Bocharov who's having a little go there. Alexander Bocharov, new team for him this year. Well, you can't complain about the workload of some of these riders today because they have all tried to get away, but they haven't had the legs to sustain it. Continuing on. I can just hold the camera steady and get a look at his face, but it looks like it might be oh, it's Serpa. Serpa in the Sedimenti colours. Jose Serpa got himself 2 stage wins, including the usual one up the Genting Highlands in the Tour of Langkawi in February. Wasn't a particularly exciting race this year, very routine, but the man that wins up Genting usually wins the race, and Serpa was the boy, and he carried off victory again there. Now this is a very good move by him. setting himself quite a target here, but he would have all the qualifications to get up over the Hui. If he could just get a lead of 30-40 seconds, there's no way they'd pull him back on the Hui. Nice to see this team now breaking away from the early season successes, away from the main roads of Europe, to now flying the flag here as well. Just 30 years of age, Serpa. Three wins this year, includes, he finds his form quite early on down in South America. Temperatures are probably a little bit better than anywhere else in Europe. He finished third overall and won a stage of the Tour of San Luis, which is in Argentina, back in January. Then he went up to the Tour de Langkawi, conquered the King of the Mountains as well as the race, and a stage win on stage 5. And nothing outstanding since, until today. I don't think going round corners is his greatest skill. However, if he gets himself back into a rhythm, he's now a nice... I didn't see the 20 kilometres to go. Sometimes they're slightly out on our GPS system, but even so, he's down to 20k to go. 19 relatively good fast kilometres, and then the last climb up the hill to the top of the Hui. Sun's right on his back now. He's got himself into a nice rhythm. Finds most of his top form in January, February, March time. It's when the majority of his victories has come over the years. And he's always been with this team. It used to be known as Sella Italia before it became Sedimenti di Giovanni. Great name for a sponsor, but you need a double page spread to write it in the headlines. 19 kilometres to go. We're ticking them off. And the challenge is down now, and it's come from a Colombian. No Colombian cyclist has ever podiumed in Fleche Wallonne. Not the time to tell Jose Serpa that. Keeps looking over his shoulder, but it's almost as if he's not secure yet. He's got himself 19 seconds. That's a good start. Absolutely superb touring roads. And racing roads, of course, out of sight, out of mind. It's a nice steady drop here just now, downhill. The cavalry look as though they haven't lost interest to me. They're trying to organise it here. Cofidis, Case de Pan are on the front. Still, we haven't seen anything of Alejandro Valverde today. And nor indeed his right-hand man, Joaquim Rodriguez. So if Alejandro can't do it, then Joaquim usually comes up and has a dig. But they must be in this group. Cadel Evans lying low as well. Too many of them know that really, if you're feeling good and you've got the legs, you only need to worry about the ride up to the finish. It is so steep. But you only get one shot on the Hui, and if you make it wrong shot, you run out of steam and you can't recover in time to go again. Down through the high walls of the town here. Absolutely beautiful spring in this part of Belgium. The blossoms of the cherries on the right there. I don't think they ever mature to be cherries, but the blossoms are nice. Well, he's riding with gusto here, and he looks good. Won 12 races in his career, which started back in 2006, so considering he's 30 years of age, he hasn't had a very long pro career. Won the Pan American Road Race Championship once. Just trying to keep the pressure on from Case de Pan, Cofidis. Not too sure about the third rider there. I see Nicky Sorensen is there, the champion of Denmark, not far off the pace. Lambau Credit on the wild card teams. That's Sorensen just zipping up his racing jersey, champion of Denmark. Little attack now, down the far side. They're very, very vigilant. Anybody that moves, there's a reaction. Unless you go to the wrong side of the road, then the door opens. I'd like to tell you who that Cofidis guy was, but I haven't a clue. There's those dangerous pieces of road furniture in the centre of the road for the riders to dodge around. It's an extra challenge in professional cycling these days because they're going so fast. Once more, gaps opening here. And Serpa's on his own. Well, we've had a Venezuelan on the podium, but we've never had a Colombian on the podium. Unai Echevarria finished second in this race in 2002. And I'm pretty sure he's the only rider from the South American continent to have podiumed in this event. "16 seconds, 15 kilometers to go." A little bit of a reshake of the pack as they're all starting to reform once more. Still plenty of riders to try and do something. And there, just sat at the back there, just getting his food ready for what might be a lonely run-in. I'm not too sure, might be doing him an injustice. 171, Christophe Moreau. He's done well to sit here because this is a very fast-moving peloton. It is not an easy ride in there when you've done 166 kilometres by yourself or doing most of the work in the breakaway. And so Christophe is still in there. Now Case Depart, and it looks as though the boys in pink, Lamprey, who stayed in our hotel throughout the classics up in the north there with or in the southern part of Flanders, west part of Flanders, when we stayed in Kortrijk for the Paris-Roubaix and Ghent-Wevelgem and Tour of Flanders. I don't think the mechanics ever came out the car park. They were fixing bikes the whole time. And just when they finished them, the boys went and broke them all again on the cobblestones. Well, try as you might, a little bit of determination, and the rotter set in for Serpa. The whole peloton, he must be surprised by that. The whole peloton has swept him up. Gendarmes and the race marshals blowing the hearts out with the whistles as they get them on the right course, which they've succeeded in doing, and it's a considerable feat in itself, that. Just noted too that Rabobank are putting the riders up here now. Remember, Oscar Freire is in here. I can't think he'll survive the climb, but Robert Gesink could, and he's also here. Gesink managed 4th place last year. Kirken has gone. I don't think he's here at all now. I don't think he came back. Evans is certainly here, the Australian. Cunigo is here, Gesink and Rebellin. They all made top 6 last year, and now we've got another attack here. "13 to go. This is Botcherov. Just trying to hear what Radio Tour's saying, but they haven't a clue. They've just said somebody's gone by himself. Very useful information, that. This is Alexander Botcherov. Needs a bit of help by the look of it. First time we've seen Botcherov in home colours, really, because the Russian rider, and there's confirmation, the Russian rider in fact has always raced on French teams throughout his career, which began in 2000, so it's his 10th year as a pro. He's only ever won 2 races, And in fact it's really only one race, because he won the overall of the Tour of the Mediterranean last year, and also took the third stage. They're the only races he's ever won, but that doesn't make him any less of a rider, because he's had some terrific finishes and certainly ridden well down in the Tour Down Under, where he's been a pretty regular visitor when he was part of AG2R and the Crédit Agricole teams. Like starting his season in Australia in the warmth of Adelaide, and boy, it can be warm. We've had some very hot days down there. But the legs are now screaming with pain, and the bunch are bringing them back. One has a feeling of a big togetherness in Fleche Wallonne this year. Try as they might, the team's continually putting feelers out, but somebody else is driving them back in. Nobody actually cracking anybody. Another one of these nasty little drags that's finished off Alexander Bocharov. Beckman always at or near the front. Sergei Ivanov moving up through the pack again. Christian Fanberger is here, the champion of Austria. New team for him. In fact, the Katusha boys, having got that result last week in Amstel Gold, or not last week, just a few days ago on Sunday, because this is a midweek race, Wednesday, they seem to be now more or less monitoring the head of this event, and they've got 3 riders now trying to get away. Fanberger's tagged on to the back of them. It looks like it might be Scarponi there, who's also got into this breakaway. This is Fanberger. Rode last year for Barlow World. That's a team which has announced its withdrawal from the sport at the end of this year. If you remember, after the problems they had in the Tour de France with Moses, one of the riders there who was done for drugs. They announced they were out on the spot, but they felt sorry for the rest of the team, and they came back in again, in fact, but they are definitely out at the end of this year, which is very sad. Terrific team. It's registered in Great Britain, but in fact it's a South African setup, and it's managed by Claudio Corti, former Italian world amateur champion. And so a lot of guys are looking for contracts on that team, and they've got some good riders. Fanberger already moved. He's joined the Russian squad this year, sits in second wheel here. Looks as though we've got 5 riders. That must be Sergei Ivanov, who's tagged on at the back. So we've got Scarponi, Gasparotto, Fanberger, Ivanov, and if that's the quick step rider who's come on the back, then that'll be Davenants. Riders are dropping off. That was Julien Alvarez, the Frenchman on Cofidis, who's having a very good season. Looks as though he was in trouble at the back of the group. There's the full lineup, and that's exactly as we spotted it. Sometimes I amaze myself. 11 kilometers to go. It used to be easier to spot riders when they didn't wear sunglasses and crash helmets, but it's not so easy anymore. And just look at that as they start. And I've just noticed too that also getting in on the act now is he's still in the pack at the moment, but that was Valverde, who knows this finish just about as well as anybody from Belgium. But I think they're going to bring everybody back together again. They're all sensing they're in with a chance here, and they all are till they make that right-hand turn in Huy and see the wall facing them. The Liquigas using the big gears to close this gap down. Let's do it cleanly and quickly. Save all this struggling across open water there. Soft pedalling there looks to be, I didn't mean soft pedalling, I meant just nice pedalling by Cadel Evans from Silence Lotto. Well, I think everybody's earned the colours to be in the peloton today, because there's been so much movement, and just to stay in the peloton you've had to say it's been all my own work. You can't really hide when you're being stretched like this. Terrific racing, even though it's going nowhere. At 10k, must be nearly 9 kilometres now. Vanberger pushing on those pedals here. So it takes a breather at the back. That's Rodriguez, who's come up for Case de Pont. We wondered where they were. Now they're here when it matters most. 10k out. Shortly to become 9. Beautiful split in the field right now. Unless you're in the back half, of course, then it's terrible. Cervelo have been very quiet today, I must say. Simon Gerrans has been given the privilege of leader. He wears 181. Scarponi, Rodriguez, Framberger is the new lineup. So Katusha with the man here, and Scarponi is a very strong rider. So they'll have turned off at the back. They've tried to get somebody away in the move, and now they've got Michele Scarponi, who's had a win, don't forget. He won the Tirreno Adriatico. Incredible race to win, especially if you're Italian in the month of March. He led for only a day as well. Snatched it, shall we say. It's his second year with Sedimenti. He had no results really to speak of last year, but he's come out fighting this year. Never had a result to my knowledge in Fleche Wallonne. Got himself involved in somehow in that Operation Puerto business, and he was suspended for that. Rodriguez, not too sure, not too committed in the black there, waiting to see what to do, waiting perhaps for information on his team boss Valverde. Bit of strengthening coming across now, reinforcements on the way. Two, 4, 5, chasing. Yes, that's getting a bit more of a good appearance about it now. Still the original 3 driving at the front, but 3 more have hooked up at the back. That'll be Kreuziger in the liquid gas colours. Saxo Bank, Karsten Kroon. Now this is quality, and 3 new teams here. And Tirolongo is tagged on for Lampre at the back. In the mauve, Rabobanco, well, it looks like they're all driving across. It's amazing, isn't it? Nobody will go anywhere. That's another combination which really had potential, especially with Karsten Kroon. Seven kilometres to go. We're running down towards the main road. Throw a blanket over the lot. It'll be slipping up the gears shortly, and they'll be able to cross the gap. I can't see that group staying away at this point. It's still a pretty big peloton. They're saying 10 seconds the break at the moment, 7 kilometres to go. Life at the back of the peloton. Vanberger on the left, Rodriguez on the right, Karsten Kroon now on the right. Tirolongo is the Lampre boy at the back. We need one more name on the screen, I think. Can't see the Karsten Kroon bit. There we are. It'd be hard pressed though, wouldn't you, to find a more beautiful area to ride a bike race than through the Ardennes at this time of the year. No cycle paths in this part of the world, you're free to ride. And the Belgian police working overtime today to bring these riders safely through the switchbacks of the Ardennes as we get down onto the bigger road, down by the river, heading towards Huy. Where the crowd will now have had a few beers up on the hill there, because there are coffee shops on the climb, or cafes which sell beer more rather than coffee. There's the little narrow road we've now dropped off, and Famberger's free to fly. Still got 6 riders clear here, and Famberger feeling now this may be the right move today. Belgian television, that's our man who's bringing us the pictures. And as the moto goes at the back of our other motorbike, Roman Kreuziger getting ready, no doubt, for the upcoming tours of Romandy and Switzerland, because he always rides well at that time. Paolo Tiralonga just passed through screen. First mentioned him back in the Tour Down Under a few years ago now. Almost won a stage into Victor Harbour, I seem to remember, on a beautiful day down in South Australia. Oh, there's interesting there. That's Oscar Freire. 3 times world champion, one of the few sprinters who can climb the moderate hills. I'm not sure whether we could call the Puy de Puy moderate. It's very steep, but it's not that long. I just can't see Oscar getting up it. Sorry, Oscar. 5 kilometres to go now. I can't see anybody getting away. 5 kilometres out. 6 seconds the gap. There's only so fast you can go on a bike, and I think both groups are at the level. And it's Columbia High Road now, despite the fact that they've lost their leader and last year's winner, Kim Kirken. But they have other quality men here to take them to the finishing line, possibly. Tony Martin, Thomas Lundqvist, Albacini, they spoke of those names at the start. So maybe it's time for them to deliver this year, if High Road's going to deliver the goods. I must say, if they all follow in the wheel tracks of their women's team, Tina Teutenberg is having one terrific season. I think she's won 10 or 11 races already this season. That is incredible. Right, break over. Rodriguez was in that break, but I would say was never committed to it. And he's there to fight again now, along with his team leader. Sandy Casal, Française de Jeu, sat near the back. Another man gets it right on the climb. It looks as though Silence Lotto have now put the word out. They must feel this is going down to best of the climber sprinter up the finish. And so now tactics are simple. Keep the pressure high, stop any more of these silly little attacks that are going nowhere, and deliver both Philippe Gilbert and Cadel Evans to the base of the climb in the right position, because they've got the staying power. They could take it now. 3 kilometres out, a result which the team would be delighted with right now. They won a big result just now, Silence Lotto. Got washed away in the early part in the Flanders Classics by their arch rivals, Quick-Step. And Gilbert, inspired by the fact he lives right here on these roads. Cadel Evans can't say the same, of course. He lives an awful long way away on the other side of the world in a place called Barwon Heads. 2 kilometres to go. We're in the back streets of Huy. We get back onto a good road, and then we flick right at just on the kilometre for the Battle of the Mountain. This is going to be quite a finish now. Now, this is how you position yourself when you think you've got a chance of winning Fleche Wallonne. The riders, plenty of fluidity in the movement there, all trying to... I can see Simon Gerrans trying to get on the act there too for Cervelo. Cervelo haven't really done much on the race today. They've watched all the moves, and so far it's paid off for them, as they now start to sit there, and I think it's only Gerrans who's up here for them. Valverde being led to the altar, but can he get married at the top? Well, he's got to take his chance on the climb. He knows the climb. He last won this race in 2006, the first leg of the double, going on to pick up a Liège-Bastogne-Liège. It's only been done 7 times, the double, throughout history. It's quite a coveted result. Somebody from Muscatel just cried enough there and slipped off the back. Well, this is now going to be it as they start the climb up towards the finish. This really steep ascent. These are the people down the bottom, but it's an awful long way. You have to time it to absolute perfection, no second chance. Nicky Sorensen is in the red there, the champion of Denmark for Saxo Bank, and he's trying not to make the move just now. The Française de Jeu rider has had enough. There's Sorensen forced to go into the lead. Fabian Weckmann trying to get onto his wheel, but not trying to use his energy either. And this is David Lelay here for Agri Turbel, and that's a serious move. He's got a nice low gear in as he pushes on. He's a long way to go to the top, and believe me, you come round one of these bends and you see this wall, it is steep. Huge crowd here now. They were walking up it earlier, but now they're all very orderly here as they applaud the Frenchman, who's on form at the moment. Now, can David finish off what his teammate Christophe Moreau started so long ago today? Valverde sits in the centre there in the black with the champion strips on the edge of his cuffs, former champion of Spain. Weckmann concentrating on the left, now pushed out of it. Cunego here in pink. Andy Schleck, I haven't mentioned him before, has moved right to the front without brother Frank today, left lying in the road of the Amstel Gold 4 days ago. Cadel Evans has been forced to come to the front, but it's an awful long way to go. Cadel looks at the steep section of the climb here. Some climbers like to dictate the pace, but how much effort is he using here? He knows the finish. Second last year, and no Kim Kirken to worry about this time up the climb. Third wheel as we look down is David Rebellin, twice a winner here in 2007 and 2004. He's moved up to third place. The lay has been washed away. He went just that little bit too soon, but Evans is digging now. I think he's made a big mistake, Cadel Evans. He's gritting his teeth, and he knows those legs are not firing quite like they should. Waiting is Schleck and Rebellin. Rebellin moves up onto the shoulder of the younger Andy Schleck. He's only younger by about 15 years, mind you, and now it's Rebellin who makes his move. And Rebellin has seen the finish, and he's gone now. Has Schleck got it here? His face said he may not. Surely not. Andy Schleck, one of the oldest riders in the race, not quite the oldest, is coming clear here with an incredible acceleration. He's going to get his third victory here. He did it in 4, did it in 7, now he's doing it in 9. Only 3 other riders have ever done that: Argentin, Merckx and Kint. And so he joins a very exclusive 4-up club. And it looked to me as though it was indeed Andy Schleck who hung on for second. And I think the little prince, Damiano Cunego, has crossed the line in third place, just as he did a year ago. Evans faded dramatically there. There's Ivanov coming in now. Winner of the Amstel Gold. This leaves nothing to the imagination, this climb. You nail your colours to the wall. As I said, you get one shot. Evans played his card too soon, and the legs wouldn't make it to the top. David Delay, I think he took advantage of a little rest period, a lull before the race started, and took his chance well, but it wasn't good enough. So what can you say about David Rebellin? He is a man of these classics. He so often has been. He's proved it before. He did the double himself a couple of years ago in 2004. He also did the treble then, because he won the Amstel Gold as well. They were big moments for him, and that is a huge result for his team too, as they come all up the climb here one by one. Let's have a look again at the finish. That was the move. I think he sensed that Andy Schleck was about to make the move. He thought he better get one over on him first, and then he's given it maximum acceleration. Schleck a bit more laboured here, couldn't quite get into the groove, and when he realised he got that little gap somewhere, the old man of the Ardennes just stamps on those pedals, and he pulled well clear of the field without any trouble at all. Points at his head here because he's telling us, I use my head to win today, not just my legs. And what he meant by that, I think, was he left his move until the last moment and then delivered a blow with just about every ounce of strength he had left in his body. So as we look out across the River Meuse here, the clock continues to count. We might be getting the result. There they are. Rebellin gets the win over Schleck Cunego. It was Samuel Sanchez, the Olympic champion from Beijing, in 4th. Cadel Evans passed on the line, drops 2 places, finishes 5th. Lockvist best for Columbia High Road. He claimed the 6th place finish there. Congratulations, David. Finally, you've won this race for a 3rd time.
Je viens la semaine passée que j'étais pas mal. L'Amstel, j'étais pas mal, j'étais un peu malade.
I didn't do too bad, a little bit sick in the Amstel. It wasn't too bad. I've had a good week so far. Today I made a good race. We never saw him all day. What are you talking about?
Maintenant, vous redevenez un des grands favoris de Liège-Bastogne-Liège, comme
now he's made himself one of the big favourites for Liège-Bastogne-Liège. Yeah, he hopes he is. It's a course he loves very much. He just hopes he can win it one more time.
Je connais bien mon force. Je suis capable de bien programmer l'objectif.
Well, he's got the strength. It's part of his objective. It's part of his programme this year. Talkative chap, isn't he? But he certainly knows how to deliver with his legs. And at this time of the year, he's especially deadly because he just loves racing here. These sort of explosive hills. As he takes the congratulations all round here now for Di Giovanni. That's a big result for him. I think we're going to go through it all again in Italian now, but I'll tell you, he's 38 years of age in August this year, so he's a little bit older than Lance Armstrong, who will get his birthday in September. And I wonder if they'll come together and really have to cross swords in the Giro d'Italia. This is his second win of the year, by the way. Oh, his third win of the year, that's right. He won 2 stages of the Tour of Andalusia and finished third in that. He was third in the Settimana Lombarda, and now he has won Fleche Wallonne. And I wonder if he can do the double again. The only riders, by the way, who've done the double, that's won the Fleche Wallonne and Liège-Bastogne-Liège, is Ferdy Kubler. He did it in 1951 and 52, the great Swiss rider. Stan Ockers, the Belgian, did it in 1955, and he's got a little statue around here somewhere on the hills here. Eddy Merckx, of course, he's done everything. He did it in 1972. And the other great Italian that always excelled here, Moreno Argentin, did it in 91. Then Rebellin did it in 04 and Valverde in 06. They're the only guys who've ever done the Ardennes double throughout the history. And it's an amazing result for these guys. Now all that we just wait to see now is for Rebellin. I make it 53 victories throughout his career for David Rebellin. There's Andy Schleck, all smiles, and recovered from the shock of the crash of his brother Frank, the champion of Luxembourg last week in Amstel Gold Race. He had to continue to the finish of Amstel Gold knowing that his brother had been seriously injured, but not knowing what condition he was in. That's a tough call. But this is a big result now for Andy Schleck. It really is.
Andy, on a envie de vous féliciter, même si c'est la deuxième place, c'est la plus mauvaise, mais vous avez fait quand même un beau numéro dans cette ascension.
Congratulations for your second place.
Ouais, je pense. J'étais déjà plusieurs fois avec lui dans le final.
Yeah, he was just a little bit too quick on the final, on the finish rather.
Ouais, bon, je me sentais très fort à la fin. Et puis j'ai demandé toute l'équipe pour l'ascension finale. Et bon,
yeah, he was very happy with the finish. He was pretty strong and wants to thank his team for the way they brought him to the final.
On est d'office un des favoris pour Liège-Bastogne-Liège.
Oui, je pense Liège, c'est une course qui me convient un peu mieux qu'aujourd'hui.
Yes, he says he hopes he is among the favourites for Liège-Bastogne-Liège. It's a course which will suit him, perhaps even more so than today.
Je me sens très bien, je suis en très grande forme.
He's got great condition.
Avoir mon frère à mes côtés de nouveau, je le salue d'ici. Et on va faire une belle course.
And he hopes to make a great race. But they all say these things, don't they? Always thank the teams. Always very modest, these professional cyclists. But at the end of the day, they're the boys with the legs who have to produce the result. And even though professional cycling is very much a team situation. There was the man who was the star of the day, really, Moreau. That was the capture of his erstwhile breakaway partner there, Fumiyaki Beppu, who now rides for Skill Shimano. It's getting a bit tough out there, isn't it, Christophe? But he was swept up after a breakaway total of 166 kilometres. Then it was left to Chris Anker Sorensen to start a flurry of attacks. There's the capture. And an awful lot of guys after that wanted to really open up Fleche Wallonne today, and despite the number of different teams getting away off the front, at the end of the day nobody could crack the spirit of the race, which I think was terrific. Jose Serpa tried and failed. Botcherov gave it a good shot, he also failed. Christian Famberger had a dig. The champion of Austria split the field, but they all picked their way back. And then came the climb of the wall for the third and final time, but the one that counts. David Lelay tried to bring it back into the camp for Agri-Toubel. Cadell Evans reacted a little bit too soon. He should have just trusted in his faith in himself, I think, and waited, held his nerve before unleashing this finish, and he might have won this race. No Australian has ever won Fleche Wallonne. Schleck was well positioned after his team had brought him to the bottom. They rode well today, Saxo Bank, and almost got the result. But the grand old man from Italy, David Rebellin here, just glues his eyes on that finishing banner, shuts out the pain, taps on his helmet and wins for the third time the Fleche Wallonne. If only he can stay young enough for one more crack and one more victory, then he will become the record holder in this event, and that will be something. There's confirmation of the result then. Looking further down after Lockfist, we've got Valverde finished 7th. Simon Gerrans, great result for Simon from Mansfield in Victoria, Australia. He finished in 8th. Albacini there in 9th. For Team High Road, Bernard Hinault suggesting that the ladies come on first. Marianne Vos, who has consolidated her lead in the World Cup competition. She'll get a big round of applause here. She is without doubt the superstar of women's cycling. Overshadowed last year, of course, by the British rider Nicole Cook, who won the world and Olympic road race titles. But Nicole was beaten today. Marianne Vos wins Fleche Wallonne, I think, for the third time. Yes, also the World Cyclocross champion. She is an amazing athlete. That's how she won today. 3 in a row in the Fleche Wallonne. The speaker is saying, I thought she'd won it 3 times. I hadn't realised, I must confess, it was 3 in a row. It's an incredible record for her. Emma Johansson getting 2nd place here. Really established herself in the Beijing Olympics, and now she's part of the women's circuit here at the very, very top. She may have kept a lead in the World Cup there with that result in 2nd place. Emma Johansson, by the way, is having a film crew following her everywhere at the moment because they're making some sort of a documentary on her back home in Sweden. Wasn't too sure where the 2nd place stands on the podium. Claudia Hausler, she comes up for Cervelo and takes the 3rd place. The women on Cervelo having an excellent season, there's no doubt about that. They've got a very solid, well-built team with sprinters, climbers, time trialists, and they're getting the results. Well, it's a little intrusion, some of you may think, into our men's race, but it is nice to see the women cycling here on the podium. It's just that we don't get the pictures to give you more of it at World Cycling Productions. But this was an excellent race today for the women. They had the same wall to climb, Voss showing she was good, and the same applied a couple of weeks ago to the Tour de Flanders, where Ina Teutenberg was the winner there as they slipped away towards the end in a leading group. But we had no pictures we could show. There's Bernard Hinault. Women's cycling wasn't quite as popular in his day when he was winning the Tour de France from 78 onwards. Now part of the organisation. This organisation, by the way, is the same organisation as that of the Tour de France. And in fact, Johansson has kept her lead with that 2nd place. So Marianne Vos still has some work to do if she wants to claim that jersey again off her. So Emma Johansson having a terrific start to the season. Meanwhile, the men are getting ready for their presentation. This is Rebellin now, and Damiano Cunego waiting to go up into third place, but not before he's given Italian television a quick word. Chance to think of how the day has gone for Rebellin. There's the barge traffic commuting between Holland and Belgium. This is the River Meuse. But if you cross over into Holland, it is the River Maas. Jean-Francois Pecheur. Many of you will remember Paul Schoen. Well, Paul Schoen used to ride with Jean-Francois Pecheur. They were both teammates on the La Redoute team back in the late 70s. Paul's at home in Uganda today. That's why it's just me behind the microphone watching the Fleche Wallonne. Bernardino's getting bored now, you can sense. He likes to get on with the job. He hasn't changed. The Badger, as we've always known him, is the man who likes to keep things moving. And here we go. One of the fortresses here in the Ardennes. So David Rebellin has now saluted the crowd for a third time here as winner of the 73rd Fleche Wallonne. And at 38 years of age, more or less, will he be able to come back and get the record fourth? Highly unlikely, but you never know. There's Daniel Manjas, the speaker of the Tour de France, also working here at Fleche Wallonne, telling the crowd exactly what I've just told you. Third time winner of this event. That man is absolutely amazing. I've never seen his notebook. He knows every rider in the peloton, all the performances, and he never stops talking. I hate those commentators. I don't suppose David can see these pictures that we are now watching. There's the face of Cadel Evans when he'd realised he'd done it too soon. And Cunego and Sanchez just gets by him on the line there. Lockquist didn't quite make it. Andy Schleck, the young Andy Schleck, is now here and here for a long time. He won't be 24 years of age till June. And shot to the fore 2 years ago when he finished second and won the best rookie jersey of the Giro d'Italia, second overall then. Last year he got fourth in Liège, and that's coming up now. He knows the route. He got the white jersey in the Tour de France. He's now really and truly arrived here. He was 10th last Sunday in the Amstel Gold. Now he's second here in Fleche Wallonne. And he doesn't look too tired, does he? 23 compared to 37. 14 years difference between Rebellin and him. Here comes the little prince. Damiano Cunego for the second year. Claims third place. Always looks happy. Well, he'll be 28 years of age in September. I'm not sure, but I think he might have the same birth date as Lance Armstrong. If not, he's 1 day younger than Lance, 19th of September. So he'd be happy enough with that, I think. He was 5th in the Amstel Gold, which he won last year, don't forget. So his form is on schedule as well for another big crack at the upcoming Giro d'Italia. So these are the guys who have made the name today, but who's going to make it on Sunday? Could quite likely be the same three men, although that would be against all odds happening. But there's no doubt that they're well capable of it. It's an extra 60 kilometres, the race, Liège-Bastogne-Liège. And of course, the majority of the hills coming towards the finish, with one nasty little climb. I would say not as bad as the Huy. Not quite such an explosive finishing climb as the Côte de Saint-Nicolas. But at the end of the longer distance, that could make all of the difference. So as we look at 2 Italians and 1 Luxembourg, Andy Schleck couldn't quite do what Kim Kirken did for Luxembourg last year, but Rebelline has made it 3. Hope you enjoyed the 73rd Fleche Wallonne. We'll see you at Liège. Phil Liggett saying goodbye for now.